Hi, what's up, guys? It's Adam, and welcome back to another Paper Movies Single Cut. If you're new to our channel, then a Paper Movie Single Cut is where Matthew, Jeremy, or myself take a novelization and read and review it on this channel completely solo. Now, today's episode is kind of a special one because this is my review for my very first Encyclopocalypse published novelization. Yes, I did technically review Fright Night, and that was recently re-released by Encyclopocalypse, but the key word here is re-released, as yes, that Fright Night was originally published before Encyclopocalypse re-released it. This book, however, the novelization to the film House Shark, was published originally by Encyclopocalypse. I want to give them a quick shout out and thank you for sending me this copy as well as several other of their recently released novelizations to read and review. So Encyclopocalypse, thank you so very much. Now, House Shark is exactly as the title suggests. It's a shark attack story where instead of a shark attacking someone out in the middle of the ocean, or as some films, a shark can attack someone through snow or through sand, this shark attacks someone in the comfort of their home. Yes, a shark, for whatever reason, is able to attack someone inside a house. And I'm not entirely sure how it's able to do that. When I watched the film recently, I saw it move through the shadows and the hallways, or I even saw it moving through the plumbing. And there's even, when you look at the back of the book, you can see the characters seeing the shark fin go across the screen, or you can see it kind of moving about inside of a toilet. I'm sorry, guys. It's really funny to look at. I'm sorry. When I first watched this film, I was completely blown away by how horrendous it was. I'll be honest. Whenever I received these copies of these novelizations from Encyclopocalypse, that was the one that I was the most excited for, was for House Shark. And because I hadn't seen the film at the time, but I was intrigued to. And after I did see the film, I wanted to walk outside, lay out in the middle of my front yard, curl up in a ball, and cry as my neighbors walked by, staring at me in complete and utter confusion. House Shark was a train wreck of a film. Yes, it's a very low budget movie, but that was just, I have no words for how horrendous that film was. And to make matters worse, it was 2 hours long. I had to sit through that for 2 hours. A film that I feel like shouldn't be 2 minutes long was 2 hours long. But anyway, I digress. So before I give you guys my review, I'm going to go ahead and give a brief summary for this story, and I'm going to use the one that's provided on the back of the book. When Frank Roosevelt finds a shark that can travel on land residing in his home, he enlists the help of a grizzled former real estate agent, Abe Lincoln, and an eccentric house shark expert, Zachary Taylor, to kill the beast and end its terror once and for all. Yep. A very cheap parody of Jaws. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and read the tagline they got for this movie. It's on the back of the book as well, above the title. You're going to need a bigger house. Yeah, it's, again, parroting the quote, you're going to need a bigger boat from Jaws, which now that I read that out loud and think about it, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, because if a shark is able to kill me in my house, why would I want that house to be bigger and give it more room to, move around? But, again, I digress. So what did I think of the novelization to House Shark? Well, the story is terrible, but I have to give credit where it's due. When I first saw this film, I was actually somewhat nervous about reading the novelization. Again, I was excited to have the book at first, but then after watching it, I was a little nervous, but the novelization was more entertaining than the movie. And I got to give credit to Brian G. Barry, the author, because he took a very abysmal story that is House Shark and made it more entertaining in book form. And this is one of those instances where I would recommend the book over the film. I don't recommend the film by any means. I would rather watch Jaws the Revenge on repeat for 10 days straight than rewatch House Shark. I would rather reread the novelization to Jaws the Revenge. As most of you know, I did not like that book. But I would rather reread Jaws the Revenge than watch House Shark. But if I were to recommend House Shark in any way, shape, or form, which I rarely would, I would definitely recommend read this novelization. Because again, it was slightly more entertaining. Now, did the novelization improve the story at all? No. There's hardly anything that could improve this story. But again, I was more entertained by it, and it was more easier to get through, in my opinion, because at least in this way, I can use my imagination. When I watched the film, I didn't have my imagination. I saw the effects that they were able to use, and yeah, they were really bad effects. And again, I know it's a low-budget film, but still, it was pretty atrocious. So bad that I was laughing. And you can ask Matthew and Jeremy. I sent them videos of my reaction to some parts of this film, and I was laughing my butt off. So I'm going to also say that the pacing was okay. It wasn't the greatest. I will say I saw the film in 2 hours, and it felt like I've been watching that film for 10 days. When I read the novelization, it took me about 3 to 4 hours over the course of a couple of days. But even then, that felt like less time spent on this story than watching the film. So, but yeah, the chapters were a little awkwardly paced. There would be somewhat longer chapters, then there would be like maybe chapters that have like maybe 2 to 3 pages or less, and then it would go back into another longer chapter. Again, a little awkward, but for the most part, the pacing was fine. There was a couple of things that I kind of want to point out that I felt stood out. Now, if you have seen the cover to the novelization cover to House Shark, you'll see the house shark is eating a woman that is sitting completely naked on a toilet. When I first saw that scene, I was confused as to why she felt the need to strip completely down to use the toilet. And in some of the YouTube film reviews that I had seen for this, they were all questioning that as well. But the novelization actually had some form of explanation for it. Apparently, the character in the story, Betsy, who's the babysitter for Frank's son, when she needed to use the restroom, she, again, stripped completely down. And story goes on to say that Betsy heard that that was the best way to use the facilities, as that would prevent her clothes from getting dirty in one way, shape, or form. Not the greatest explanation, but still, it's an explanation nonetheless. Now I'm going to talk about a scene that happens in this story, both in the book and in the novelization, that I found to be completely random and completely pointless. That is when there's this real estate group that is trying to sell Frank's house. Frank is, of course, trying to prevent his house from being sold because of the shark. It doesn't really work that well because when the real estate group tries to show the house to a couple, the couple, for some reason, decides they want to engage in relations, I should say, and they get killed by the shark in the midst of that. And so the real estate group brings in a expert house shark hunter, and his name is, wait for it, drum roll please, Darth Squanto. Yeah, Darth Squanto. And yes, he does use the Force, which he shows in the story. He uses the Force on Frank. He Force chokes him until someone asks him to stop. And yes, he does reply in full Darth Vader style, as you wish. I have no earthly idea why this was added. And to make matters worse, he was pointless as a character because after he claims that he has experience killing these house sharks, he takes one step into the house and immediately gets eaten. So I have no idea why that was even added in the first place. Well, whether you want to watch the film or read the book, I will let you know that it is a little graphic. It's very violent, bloody, and graphic, in regards to adult type themes. And yeah, the book doesn't hold back on those details. In fact, the book probably gives more details than the movie did. So just want to give you guys a little caution on that. It does get kind of gross, very bloody, vulgar. So if that's something that, you're not really interested in, or if it bothers you, then just want to give you a heads up before you read this novelization. Now, the big question is, how would I grade this novelization? And do I recommend it? Well, when it comes to the film, no, I don't recommend that film in any way, shape, or form. The only thing that I would recommend when it comes to that film is to not watch it, or if you are currently watching it, turn it off. If you, for some reason, want to experience House Shark in any way, shape, or form, I would suggest to read the novelization. As I mentioned earlier, I enjoyed the novelization more than the actual film. I thought the novelization was decently written. Pacing issues here and there, but overall, decently written. Now again, just be cautious. It doesn't hold back when it comes to graphic details, so just a little warning on that. But I'm going to give the novelization to House Shark a C. If you do want to check out House Shark, then this is not an official promo, but you can find the book on the official Encyclopocalypse website, encyclopocalypse.com, or you can find it listed on Amazon. But guys, thank you so much for checking out this single cut. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you are watching this single cut on YouTube, then be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed the review. And if you have read this book, then be sure to post your thoughts in the comments. But guys, thank you all so much. Be sure to stay tuned for our next single cut coming up very soon. And also be sure to stay tuned for our regularly monthly podcast episodes. Guys, thank you so much and have a great one.